Hi, and welcome to Historical Influence. Here, we explore amazing stories of people and events that shaped our history. Join us to learn, discover, and get inspired by the past in a fun and engaging way. Adolf Hitler, one of the most powerful and notorious dictators of the 20th century, was the leader of Germany's Nazi Party. He was born on April 20, 1889, in Braunau am Inn, a small Austrian town located near the Austro-German frontier. Hitler was the fourth of 6 children born to Alois Hitler and Clara Perlsson. After his father, Alois, retired as a state customs official, young Adolf spent much of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. Not wishing to follow in his father's footsteps as a civil servant, Hitler struggled in secondary school and eventually dropped out. Alois died suddenly in 1903. After his mother, Clara, died in 1907, Hitler moved to Vienna, where he attempted to pursue his dream of becoming an artist, though he was rejected twice by the Vienna's Academy of Fine Arts. Living isolated and struggling to make a living painting scenery and monuments, Hitler became interested in politics during his years in Vienna, and it was here that he began to develop many of the anti-Semitic ideas that would later shape Nazi ideology. In 1913, Hitler relocated to Munich, Germany. When World War I broke out the following summer, he successfully petitioned the Bavarian king to be allowed to volunteer in a reserve infantry regiment. He served throughout the war as a dispatch runner on the Western Front, deploying to Belgium in October 1914. He was decorated for bravery, winning 2 decorations, including the rare Iron Cross First Class, which he continued to wear until the end of his life. Hitler was recuperating in a hospital near Berlin when the news of the armistice and Germany's defeat in World War I arrived. This devastating defeat contributed to a popular belief among many Germans, including Hitler, that the country had not been defeated by the Allies, but rather betrayed by insufficiently patriotic traitors at home. This idea, known as the Dolchstoßlegende, or stab-in-the-back myth, subsequently undermined the post-war Weimar Republic and set the stage for Hitler's future rise. Hitler found the Treaty of Versailles degrading, particularly the requirement that Germany accept responsibility for starting the war, as well as the demilitarization of the Rhineland. After returning to Munich in late 1918, Hitler remained in the German military, working briefly as an intelligence officer. In September 1919, he joined the Small German Workers' Party, DAP, which aimed to unite the interests of the working class with strong German nationalism. Impressed by Hitler's skilled oratory and charismatic energy, the party propelled him quickly through its ranks. In 1920, Hitler left the army and took charge of the party's propaganda efforts. The party was renamed the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or the Nazi Party. Hitler himself designed the party's banner, appropriating a version of the swastika, an ancient sacred symbol, and placing it in a white circle on a red background. Hitler soon gained notoriety for his loud, polemic speeches against the Versailles Treaty, rival politicians, Marxists, and especially against Jews. By the end of 1921, Hitler was leading the growing Nazi Party. He capitalized on widespread discontent with the Weimar Republic and the punishing terms imposed by the Treaty of Versailles. Many dissatisfied former army officers joined the Nazis, notably Ernst Röhm, who organized the Sturmabteilung, SA, or stormtroopers, squads used to protect party meetings and attack opponents. On the evening of November 8, 1923, Hitler, along with members of the SA, attempted a coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch in Munich. Holding a revolver, Hitler proclaimed the beginning of a national revolution. The following day, Hitler led marchers to the center of Munich, where they engaged in a gun battle with police, resulting in the coup's spectacular failure and Hitler's subsequent arrest for high treason.
Though sentenced to 5 years, Hitler served only 9 months in Landsberg prison. During this confinement, he dictated most of the first volume of his autobiographical and political manifesto, Mein Kampf, or My Struggle. In Mein Kampf, Hitler expanded on his nationalistic and anti-Semitic worldviews developed in Vienna. He laid out his plans for the Germany he sought to create. Obsessed with race, Hitler saw a natural order that placed the so-called Aryan race at the top. The book also addressed the need for Lebensraum, or living space, in the East, arguing that Germany must take over lands occupied by inferior Slavic peoples, including Poland and Russia, to fulfill its destiny. Upon Hitler's release, support for Nazism was temporarily waning due to economic recovery. Over the next few years, however, Hitler reorganized the party, notably creating the Schutzstaffel, SS, as a more reliable alternative to the SA. The SS members, who wore black uniforms, swore a personal oath of loyalty to Hitler.
The worldwide Great Depression, which began in 1929, once again threatened the stability of the Weimar Republic, providing a political opportunity for Hitler. Leveraging widespread discontent, Hitler built up support among German conservatives, including army, business, and industrial leaders. In the 1932 presidential election, Hitler came in second to Paul von Hindenburg. Despite the Nazi Party never attaining more than 37% of the vote at their peak popularity in 1932, the political chaos led President Hindenburg to reluctantly appoint the 43-year-old Hitler as chancellor on January 30, 1933. This date marked the birth of the Third Reich. Hitler quickly used his position to establish a de facto legal dictatorship. After a fire devastated the Reichstag building in February 1933, Hitler used it as an excuse to step up political oppression and violence against his opponents. The subsequent Reichstag fire decree suspended basic rights and allowed detention without trial. On March 23rd, the Reichstag passed the Enabling Act, which granted Hitler's cabinet full legislative powers for 4 years, transforming the Weimar Republic into Nazi Germany. By July 14, 1933, the Nazi Party was declared the only legal political party in Germany. The demands of the SA leadership for more political and military power caused anxiety among Hitler's allies. In response, Hitler orchestrated the infamous Night of the Long Knives, starting on June 29, 1934, where Rome and hundreds of other problematic SA members and political adversaries, including former Chancellor Kurt von Schleicher, were murdered. When the 86-year-old Hindenburg died on August 2, 1934, military leaders agreed to combine the presidency and chancellorship into one position. Hitler thus became both head of state and head of government, taking the title Führer und Reichskanzler, leader and chancellor of the Reich. Military personnel were immediately required to affirm personal loyalty to Hitler by name. With autocratic power secured domestically, Hitler focused on his overriding aim, the domination and expansion of the Volk. His long-term goals included securing Lebensraum, living space, in Eastern Europe. In 1933, Germany withdrew from the League of Nations. By March 1935, Hitler announced a large-scale expansion of the Wehrmacht, German armed forces, to 600,000 members, in direct violation of the Versailles Treaty. In March 1936, against the advice of his generals, Hitler ordered German troops to reoccupy the demilitarized left bank of the Rhine. Over the next 2 years, Germany concluded crucial alliances, eventually forming the Axis powers with Italy and Japan. In March 1938, Germany annexed Austria in the Anschluss. Hitler then turned his focus to the ethnic German population of the Sudetenland region of Czechoslovakia. The ensuing Munich Agreement in September 1938, attended by Hitler, Neville Chamberlain, Edouard Daladier, and Mussolini, ceded the Sudetenland districts to Germany. Despite achieving this diplomatic success, Hitler was privately angered about the missed opportunity for war in 1938. In March 1939, Hitler violated the Munich Agreement and invaded the Czech Rump state. Once he confirmed the alliance with Italy in the so-called Pact of Steel in May 1939, Hitler signed the Non-Aggression Pact, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, with the Soviet Union. On September 1, 1939, Nazi troops invaded Poland, finally prompting Britain and France to declare war on Germany, marking the outbreak of World War II. By 1941, Nazi forces had used blitzkrieg, lightning war, military tactics to occupy much of Europe. In 1941, Hitler also launched an invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa, violating the 1939 pact.
Hitler's virulent anti-Semitism and obsessive pursuit of Aryan supremacy fueled the murder of some 6 million Jews, along with millions of other victims of the Holocaust. The Nazi regime was responsible for the genocide known as the Holocaust, which resulted in the deaths of approximately 6 million Jews, representing 2/3 of the Jewish population in Europe. Other groups targeted as undesirables included homosexuals, Roma, gypsies, and people with physical and mental disabilities. The persecution of Jews intensified throughout the 1930s. The Nuremberg Laws, passed on September 15, 1935, deprived Jews of German citizenship and prohibited marriages or relations between Jews and persons of German or related blood. Further legislation restricted their rights, culminating in the wave of violent anti-Jewish pogroms known as Kristallnacht, Night of Broken Glass, in November 1938. Beginning in 1933, the SS, or Schutzstaffel, operated a network of concentration camps, notably Dachau, to hold political opponents and Jews. After the war began, the Nazis implemented Hitler's final solution, shifting toward extermination. This included the use of Einsatzgruppen, mobile death squads, and the expansion of the camp network to include dedicated death camps like Auschwitz-Birkenau in occupied Poland. Prisoners faced mass execution, forced labor, starvation, and torture. The tide of war turned decisively against Germany after major defeats, including the loss at El Alamein and the catastrophic defeat at the Battle of Stalingrad in late 1942 and early 1943. With the successful Allied invasion of Normandy in June 1944, many German officers concluded that defeat was inevitable. An attempt was made on Hitler's life in the July 20 plot of 1944, when Colonel Claus von Stahlenberg planted a bomb at Hitler's headquarters. Hitler narrowly survived the blast.
As the Soviet forces closed in on Berlin, Hitler became increasingly unwell, isolated, and reliant on medication. He moved his center of command to the Führer bunker, an underground air raid shelter beneath the Reich Chancellery, in January 1945. In his final days, Hitler learned of the execution of his ally, Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, which reportedly intensified his determination to avoid capture. Just after midnight on the night of April 29, 1945, Hitler married his longtime lover, Eva Braun, in a small civil ceremony inside the bunker. After dictating his political testament, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in his suite on April 30, 1945, at the age of 56.
He took a dose of cyanide and then shot himself in the head. Eva Braun is believed to have poisoned herself with cyanide at the same time. Following Hitler's instructions, their bodies were carried outside to a bomb crater, doused with gasoline, and burned. With Soviet troops occupying Berlin, Germany surrendered unconditionally on all fronts on May 7, 1945, bringing the war in Europe to a close. Hitler's planned 1,000-year Reich lasted just over 12 years.
Hitler's political program and his fascist agenda brought about a horribly destructive world war. His defeat marked the end of Germany's dominance in European history and the defeat of fascism. His policies inflicted human suffering on an unprecedented scale. The Nazi regime was responsible for the democidal killing of an estimated 19.3 million civilians and prisoners of war. In addition to the 6 million Jews, the conflict he instigated led to the deaths of over 20 million people in the Soviet Union alone. Globally, 28.7 million soldiers and civilians died as a result of military action in the European theater of World War II. The historian and biographer Ian Kershaw described Hitler as the embodiment of modern political evil. Ultimately, Hitler's rule, driven by expansionist foreign policy and racial ideology, wreaked unfathomable destruction and devastation, forever transforming the history of Germany, Europe, and the world.
Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that shaped our world.